purpose. That's the purpose. That's super fine. That's the purpose. So if we just like try to say const, and I would say text. Yeah, text. And we will say we will say first, none or name. Name first. Say first one. Okay. And the same object, we have it here, first two. Is this clear? It's an array. Yeah, I don't know if you can see there. It's an array of two objects, and each object is actually an object with a name property and has another object inside it. So the way you can destructure it is like saying, for example, you can say const or let or as you like. I use const a lot, but it's your choice. So you can say the array here.
That's not array.
Sorry. Yeah, but just mention the array here. Okay. Now we want to take stuff from the array. So I don't. You can't see that, but so now I will open an array, and whatever I put here, it will be the first thing. So if I will put x1, x2, x3, what does that mean? x1 will take the first object, x2 will take the second object, x3, it will be undefined. Because we don't have a third object. Is this clear?
Yes.
So this is destructuring an array. We can go further and destructure inside stuff. It's just like recursive. So we can go inside x1. Sorry, we can go inside x1. So we put an object here inside x1. And we say name. So I will not name this one x1. I will go inside it and take name and put it here. So this will refer to name. And inside it, I can go and refer to first.
But here it's taking the name only for the first one or the both
Yeah,
one?
no. For the first one, I'm taking x2.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And for the third one, it's undefined.
Yes.
For the first one, I'm not interested in the whole object. I'm interested in inside it.
Inside name,
Yeah. I'm inserted in first.
So you will get the value first one.
So I will take first one.
Yes. Yes, and x instead of x2, you will have an object.
Whole object.
x2 is an object.
Yes.
Whole object.
The whole object.
If instead of writing first, if we write only name, again it's an object.
Yeah.
Is the first AR related to the second AR there?
Sorry, can you?
Related, the first const AR, the first one.
The first const?
Yes.
This one?
AR.
This one. This is an array
Okay.
that has two objects.
Mm-hmm.
And as we
What
said,
is that AR there?
it's just an array.
Is it related?
Variable.
It's a variable.
It's a variable
Yes,
name.
it's a variable. Are they the same? Is it the
Yes.
same variable?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like I can name this
Then it's confusing.
my array.
Mm-hmm.
I can name this my array
Mm-hmm.
as you like. It's a variable. When you say const, you put a variable name here. This can never change.
We are initializing in the first and we are taking the
The
values.
thing
in
that
second.
confused me is
No, that's where it's confusing.
this props, it's an object.
Oh, it's an object.
Yes, and when I had an array of objects and I tried to destruct it from these props, you can't put just array.
Yeah, true.
You need to extract like object.
Yeah, you need to extract an object and take an array from inside it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are saying, so as we said before, please focus with me. We said x1.
Yes.
That means that an array, imagine that this array would be copied and put in here, which is how this is how JavaScript works. So here we will have this array. Like literally, this array will be here instead of this my array.
But it's already there, right?
Yeah, it's all, I'm just trying to give you a mental model how we can compare them. But this array is this array. It's a variable.
Yeah.
And from this variable, I'm destructuring 3 items. 3 entries of the array.
Can you console log in x1, x2, x3? Maybe it will be more clear.
The next one will be name colon first.
So x1 is an object,
Yeah.
x2 is an object,
Okay.
and x3 is undefined
Undefined. Okay.
because there is no third item in the array. Now I want to go even further and say from the first entry in the array, not the second one. The second one I will keep it x2. The first one I will take name after it. So now instead of having x1 I will have name. Sorry. So now it's an object with first. You can get inside. So we took the first entry inside the array,
Yes.
and we went inside it and we took the name.
So it will be the same as writing, let's say x1 dot name.
Yes.
It's like yeah, precisely. It's like doing this. My array of 0 dot name.
Dot name. Yes.
Precisely.
So is it because of the object, the thing, that's why we didn't use the dot?
Yes, it's like I'm going inside the array and inside the object to take stuff, instead of declaring my stuff, which is like a lot of code. So this is not something new. This is just saving you some typing. It's not like a new thing. Like it's not something new. It's just saving you some typing. And again, I can go inside the object name and inside it again and take first.
I understand.
You get the idea? So you can keep like going inside. And if first doesn't suit you, you can say this first name, and this will rename the variable from first to first name. You know, you can change its name.
Yeah. Yes. And can you show us example when, for example, first
Is an object.
element is array.
This-
Inside, so
this is an
nested
array.
Yeah, nested array in array.
Okay, so let's say we have. So let's say this one is an array.
Yes.
Let's say the first. Oh no, not the first one. So we can keep the first example. Let's say the second one is an array. Are we good?
Yes.
The second one is an array, and it's an array.
Can you put another element, second one?
One more
In
object
nested.
inside another.
Yeah. So we can have this
Yes.
and this. Forget about the first one now. I will name it x1. Or let's keep it like this. I'll just make the syntax a bit better or something. I miss prettier.
You could have used sandbox.
Yeah, I don't know. People are scared of Kotlin Fox. Okay, so this should work. Well, no, it doesn't.
The second object is not closed.
Yes.
The second,
In array, in
My
nested
array?
array, you have
First two.
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, first is not defined because I renamed it to first name.
Yes, so the console.
So now we are back to our example. So now we can see that the second entry, it's so x2 means this array. So we have an array inside an array. So x2 means the second item, which is the array. And so instead of putting an object, I will put the array braces. Okay? And now I will do the same thing. Like before, I had an array and I took the first item. I can take the first item. I can say, for example, like item 1 or name 1 and name 2. Name 1 and name 2. Make sense? And name 1 would be this object, and name 2 would be this, the second object. Is this clear? And I can do the same. I can go inside name 1 and take first. The only thing, we have two firsts now, so we cannot name them two firsts because these will create variables. So we can say first one. We can rename it. First one like this, or I don't know. Make sense? So this is the idea behind destructuring. It can go a bit complex, but once you wrap your head about it, it will be like natural. Because it's recursive. That's what's the problem. It's like going deep. It's like 4 is 3 plus 1, 3 is 2 plus 1, 2 is 1 plus 1, 1 is 0 plus 1. It's like going deep and deep.
But it should be the same structure on both sides.
Exactly. You can go it needs to be. It's like you're taking stuff from this. So you see this, it's an array, I open array, I take the first one.
Symmetrical.
What?
It should be symmetrical.
Yeah, exactly. They should match. This or this, it should be the same thing. Really the powerful thing about destructuring is calling functions. So let's say you have a function called do stuff. I will comment this. Do stuff. And do stuff will console.log or no. We can say do stuff will take an object and it will say return object.a plus object.b. Okay, and we can say console.log a equal 4, b equal 6. I'm just passing and I will call do stuff. So it will give me 10. Is this clear? Just passing an object with a and b, and here I would say object a dot o. Clear?
Yeah.
For everyone? I can go one step further, and instead of, I can destructure here. I can say a, b. And just mention b and a here. Is this clear?
Yes.
So this is really one of the powerful thing about destructuring, where you can do it inside the parameters. So you don't need to mention the object and stuff. Is this clear? So the same way you can destructure variables, you can also destructure variables here. Because technically these are variables. It will be like it's scope to your function, but is this clear? It's but yeah. So I will copy this and just for some people if they are interested. This is clear? You want to say anything, Zoe, about this?
No, I'm doing something and I'm watching, looking at this.
Okay.
I'll jump in when I want to jump in.
Okay, cool. Clear? No questions? But practice this, just try to do exercises. Like the way I learned stuff, or I don't know, this is my, it's like, so when you have an assumption, even if it's wrong, so let's say you are like, you half understand something, but the other half you don't know any clue about it. Try to jump, and even with like the little things that you know, try to build an exercise, or just try to like build an example, and try to break your understanding. Just like try to run the program, but it doesn't print this. Why it doesn't print this? And you go through the thoughts. So try to break your own like way of thinking. Try to break it. Literally, it doesn't work because of this. So it's like correcting yourself. So the program will correct yourself. So this is the way you should get it. And destructuring, you need to learn it by practice. I know it's a bit, I don't know, maybe you understand it. For me, it was a bit struggle to understand it, but depends. But yeah, just like go with examples, try to run them. It doesn't work the way you like it, so you see why it doesn't work, and you follow the program, and you eventually get it. And of course, it's a practice thing.
The screen, like you just.
This one?
No, if you hover the console log after the last line, V, right? Yeah.
You mean this?
Yeah.
It's like syntax coloring, which is really stupid.
but that meant the parentheses.
Yeah, it's like syntax. No, it's not gone. I can see it here. It's really like bright gray. So I can see it here, but you cannot. It's like really. Yeah, this
It's
is.
really irritating actually.
It's like
Yeah,
this.
yeah, it
Oh,
goes up.
syntax error.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's just like wrong syntax coloring. I don't
have
know.
a question.
Yeah, of course.
If instead of my array, you have this props, so you don't need to put the square brackets.
No, let's say for example that you have let's say you it's the same way here. Imagine that this is props passing from React. So this is an object. You can destructure from an object and say A, B, C, and inside it you can take an array. You get there is no difference.
Yeah, I understand that, but when you have array of objects, and then you destruct them from these props,
Yeah.
and if I put square brackets, it won't work.
So just
So I need to use only curve branch.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
This is the thing that confused me a lot, because I had an array and I understood logically that I should put square brackets.
Depends.
in this array.
depends. If for
Didn't
example
work.
if
I
you- if you-
tried a lot of
if
times.
if you have this dot props,
Yes.
this dot props is an object. So when you destructure from it, you take an object,
Yeah.
and inside it you
It's array
uh,
inside.
yeah, but it's not an array straight away. It's an array with a label.
Yes.
Yes.
Because you cannot have an array
Yes.
straight away inside an object.
Yes.
You can, for example, have something called to-dos.
Yes.
So you will destructure an object, you will do like this. You will destructure an object, you'll say this dot props, and you'll say, for example, to-dos.
Yes.
And if this is an array, it will be an array. You can get an array from here, from this one.
Okay. And if you want to
Get stuff from the array?
Yes.
Well, the thing, I can do this. I can do this.
No, it won't work.
It will work.
I
Let's
tried.
let's say we have const. We will try, of
Okay.
course. Let's say we have const object 2, and it has to-dos. Okay,
Yes.
and it's an array with text. Text 2.
Yes, this will work, but if instead of text you put object,
We can do that. Let's say name text. Okay,
yes.
we are done with this code. So instead of putting this dot props, we can just put this object
Yes.
too. It's like this
Yes,
dot props.
yes, yes.
So yeah, so we can put to-dos. Now we have to-dos. We can try to print to-dos.
Console.
Console spelling.
Console.
I'm trying to go fast. Unexpected token. Yeah, because I'm missing
Oh.
this. So now I could take an array of objects. Okay? So to-dos is an array of objects. This is the first thing.
Yes.
Because to-dos here is an array. So it's an object that has an array. So from the object I take the array. I could go one step further and just take the first element of the array, which is, I will name it item 1. So if I will print item 1, it's name text, because I took only this item.
Yeah.
And I can go one step further and say, from item 1, I want to take name.
What is this?
Probably you confuse something, because it's really confusing. A lot of time it happens to me. Oh, it's an array inside an object, but an object inside an array. It's like,
Yeah.
what? It's really confusing. So yeah, it's
I
error
agree,
prone.
But I don't know why. In my case, it won't work with square brackets. So I need to
Maybe you
put only-
didn't, because the props is an object first.
Yes.
And
It's
then
not an array.
Inside,
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I just said
yes,
yeah,
you're
and
right.
then inside this object, it might have like different
Yeah.
things. It can be object, it can be string, it can be anything. It can be like array. So if you want to go down, like he said, it's like you're actually just doing nested thing.
Yes.
So when you want to get to next level, you need to kind of like locate it, and with the same structure, because it's a mapping.
Exactly.
And if you look at the const which line? Okay, this one. Const to do blah 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 equals obj2 is actually assigning obj2 into whatever that is like in, after the const, and then you do the destructuring because like one use case is you want to have a variable that is targeted to a very specific value inside of a value. So you do the destructurings. Then later on, when you change that value, then you change this variable too. You just store the thing. You just store it. Yeah. So if you but then again, if you don't target to the right let's say level, it won't map.
Yeah, okay. I don't know why, but in my case, yeah, it wasn't work.
Maybe put
Yeah,
down.
there was like a gotcha. Like if
Yeah.
you think you're there is a gotcha. It happens to me too.
Yeah.
There is a gotcha. Like maybe you are just one level down. You think you are down, but you are like one level
Yes,
up, or
yes.
you are one level down and you think you are one level up. Here you think you are inside the object. No, but you are like inside in the inner object. It happens. You had a question?
You wrote item 1, right?
Yeah.
And then it gave you name, the object.
Yeah.
Name dot colon text.
Yeah.
What if we had, let's say, we had a telephone number with that? And you
We have what?
a phone.
Yeah.
as part
Let's say you have let's say you have here like
yeah,
phone.
Uh-huh.
You say, I don't know what happened. But you just say phone. You list what you want to take from the object.
If you want to say, no, I want to say that when you said object 1, it gave you name colon that, like the object.
Yeah.
So if you really
Like this
only
one?
yes, you only wanted to say phone colon the number.
I don't understand.
I also don't.
You want to go inside the phone?
Not
You want to
exactly.
transfer yourself?
You said item 1.
Yeah. Before I did this,
Yes. Okay, print item 1 again. Can you?
I did this.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. And this one will print everything, name and phone.
Yeah.
Okay, the whole object.
Yes.
Is okay.
And after that, you can throw the object and go inside it.
Okay.
So like as you like.
Take the value.
Yeah. So it's
Not the key.
no. You take the value. You know the key. If you say give me name, so you already know the key. So you don't need to request the key. Because this is the thing about objects. You don't need, like most of the objects, they have well-known keys. You know that an object has name and has like, it's not like an array. An array has just a collection of value that doesn't have any meanings. But the object has some sort of meaning. Are we good? So let's continue. We will really need this to go to work with states and stuff as we discussed last time. Remember when we worked a bit with state? Last time we discussed state, but it's in a fairly like we didn't go crazy deep. We just like discussed set state and stuff. But today we will think. I don't know how much you remember, like you really remember, but I want to just like draw some visual. Yeah. Do you want to say something?
This is like auto closing and auto opening and like
You want to say something?
Yes, last one.
no. There is no last thing. Shoot.
Okay, so what if you want text 2? You wanted to print only text 2. What are you going to do?
You want to print text too?
Yeah, would we get item 2 or what?
You just say this. So item 1.
Uh-huh.
So item 2 is actually representing text 2.
Okay. No, I want only item 2.
Yeah. So you do this. You do a comma
Yeah.
because
Just don't assign
you don't. It's like you don't want anything here.
Okay.
This is how you do. If you want to ignore the first 2, you just do this. So you will go. You will not take 1 and you will not take 2. You will take the third.
Okay.
With 2 commas.
Print item.
Yeah.
To use some name with array 0, 1, 2, 3. It works.
I think it works. Yes. Yeah. Because it's an array, is not just an object. But you should not do that. That will really confuse people.
Okay.
That will really confuse people. But I hope it's I don't know, a good introduction about destructuring.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will do a small example because I just want to explain a bit about how React actually work. So we had this example before, and let's Let's open this here and let's hide the browser. Yeah, we are good now. So I will just create a really small example now about. So I will try to build sort of a counter or something.
What is
Yeah.
that?
I'm opening it. It's finished. So
Yeah, and then
yeah, I've done that.
So so I have this. This is a really small React component. A really small React component. I will create another component inside it called counter. Okay? And here I will create a counter component function for class counter extends. You remember when I said, like, in most of the homeworks I said, like, because you are flowing me technically by I create a lot of components in one file,
Yes.
and that's just to make it easy for you. Instead of switching between multiple files and you'll be lost, we have one file, we scroll up and down, it's
Yeah.
clear for you. But a good habit is to actually have like really less code per file. You don't want to have 500 code per file. That's like, it will really make everything difficult. It will make merging conflicts in Git difficult. It will make reviewing difficult. It will make breaking component difficult. It will make reading code difficult. So just try to split code. Like, just if you have 15 line per code, 20 line, that's really good.
But does that mean like a file per component or?
Yes,
Yes,
most of the time it's a file
exactly.
per component.
Yeah.
And even if you can split the component itself into 2 files, go and do that. If you have a component with 3 functions, split and put the function in another file and create the component in another file. Split as much as possible.
Okay.
Because that will make moving code easier, reading code easier, you'll be less scared. Imagine if you open a project with 5 files and every file has a 20 line of code. Comparing to 5 times 20 in one file, you'll be less scared. 20 lines, it's easy, 20 lines, I can just read this, even that it's the same. So remember, 1 component per file.
Okay.
Unless you have really, well, but 1 component per file.
No excuse, no reason.
No excuse,
I have
no
a
excuse.
question.
Extends
React
components.
Yes.
Just small mistake.
In- why you use in one class React.component and in another?
It's a syntactic sugar, as you like.
It's
It's,
already
It gives me a
Structured.
mistake if I use
yeah,
only
so the
component.
idea, yeah,
Mhm.
go
It's
ahead.
structured. Look at the first line.
Okay.
It's structured.
So if I write just import React from React.
This will
Then
not
you
work.
need to do
Yeah.
React dot
Dot
something.
yeah.
Mhm. Exactly.
Like this, it doesn't
Yes.
work.
Yes. Yes.
So it's more as you like. You can destructure it. You can say name dot first, or you can just say first, as you like. You can destructure it or not. It's your yeah. But yeah, so we have a render. And let's return a button. Okay, and a button will have 4. So we have it here. It's really
Nice button.
yeah. Of course, it's nice. My styling. So it's a button here. And what I really want is this counter component to have some sort of so I want when I click the button is to update this to 5, 6 every time I click it. This is my purpose. And as we discussed last time, how we can do that actually? Because we have a value here, and this value will change every time we click. That means that we need to keep the value somewhere, so we can update it every time.
Yeah.
Is this clear?
Yes.
We have a number, we click, we update the number. We click again, we update the number. We click again. So it's like it will start with 0 every time we click, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a counter. And technically, every time we update the number, we need to re-render so we can show the new number.
Yeah.
Is that clear?
Yes.
And we discussed last time that there is props and state. Props is something you get from the parent. For example, you have a component that prints hello, you give it a name, so you can actually parameterize it like a function. It will not have a fixed name. But state, we discussed that it's something that it's inner to the component itself. So whenever you update the state, the component will re-render. So I think the state is a good candidate for storing the counter value, because whenever we click the button, we want to update the state, and that will update the component itself. Is this clear? What I'm saying? All of you, or just say please, like what?
50-50.
Okay. The idea we discussed state last time,
Yes.
and what was what we said last time about state? What was the purpose of state?
It does re-rendering every time something like happens.
Change in the state.
Change in state.
Okay. And now I have a counter, and every time I click, I want to re-render
Yes.
and change the value. So I think state is a good candidate for storing the counter,
Yes.
Yeah.
because if we store it somewhere else and we update it, our component will not update.
Yeah.
So we need to use state.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yes.
It's something like event listening.
Yeah, we will discuss that. But we are just discussing state here. So so last time we said we can have constructor and props and super props, and we discussed inheritance and super constructor. Like, we don't care. So a better way to do this, because last time I just want to give you sort of foundation. So we said last time this dot state, and you give it an initial state.
Yeah.
This is what we said last time. So actually, the way you can do this, you can also do it in another way, which is like doing state equal like this. So this line and this line are sort of the same. This will assign a property to this class called state, and this will do the same.
Yeah.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
So this is a shorthand for writing the whole constructor and stuff. But this is more new. This will not work in all the browsers. Well, now it does, but if you support all browsers, it doesn't. So this is just a shorthand property for writing all this. Is this clear?
Yeah.
So just think that JavaScript behind the scene will do this dot state and move this to a constructor. But it just less code for you. So I will start using that from now on, and it's really well adopted. Make sense? So we just use state here, and we give it an initial value. So let's say counter, it's 0. Cool. Now I need a function that will update the counter. So every time I click or I do every time I call this function, it will update the counter. Okay. So I will create a function called, so the same way you can write render like this. You can also say like an arrow function, and you can say, for example,
Increase.
increment. I'll do like every tutorial, they call it increment. I'm a tutorial guy. Or I can say increment, even go the tutorial-ish. So I can write it this way. But I can also write it this way, the same way as state, and say this, and put an arrow function here. Is this clear? So you can write methods this way, or you can write this method this way. This is a bit better, because it will avoid you some errors that we will discuss after if we will have some time. But yeah, you can write it this way, and it's preferable in your stage to write it this way. It's related to the binding and this, just to give you a hint. But yeah, so, and here we will increment the counter. So what we're gonna say is this dot set state. We discussed last time that to update the state, we need to use this dot set state.
Yeah.
Why? So we can notify React that something changed. Because if we go and say this dot state dot counter equal 4, but React will not know that counter changed because it's just a variable. React doesn't do anything magic with here. Make sense? So we need to actually notify React and say, hey, I updated counter, please re-render. And the way I do it is passing an object. And I will say counter. Well, it's an object, so I need to say counter and give it this dot state. So taking the old counter plus 1. Make sense?
Yes.
Just like the old counter plus 1 replace the new counter. So now I have an initial state and I have a way to update the counter. The way I want, so this is like my kind of business logic. This is the logic that I have. I have counter, I have a way to update the counter. Now
Back.
I want to, when I click on the button, I update the counter. Okay? And how I can do that? A simple way, and you know this way, is to say an add event listener on the button. Yeah, add on event listener on click event precisely to update the counter. It's similar in React, but it just has different syntax. And it's the syntax that everybody hates before. Like before they told you to not do this. But now this is how the React does it because it's a small component. So you can say on click. You say you say on. After that you say the name of the event. So on click, on mouse move, on key up, on key down, all these events. You can see.
On change.
On change. Well, on change is not supported on the on change in React and in the browser they are different.
And if you want
On fire.
if you want
On
button
blur.
to work, on enter.
Yeah, you can say on key up or on key down,
Okay.
and it will fire for every keystroke.
Then you
And
can
inst-
check the key code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a generic event. So you can say on click, and you say on, and this is capital, not like the browser. And now this will take a function.
Okay. What function?
Increment.
Increment.
Yes.
So we want to pass increment here. So we say this dot increment. So this dot increment means this function. Okay? So we assign not we assign, but we pass increment as on click. So whenever we click the button now, React will call our function. It's like an add event listener.
Yes.
Clear?
Yeah, I have a question. If we write without writing set state and just increment whenever you click, it increments automatically.
What do you
Should we, if we write increment function,
Yeah.
counter plus plus, and when we click, it automatically increase the counter. What's the difference?
I don't get you. I'm sorry. I don't
He's
get
saying
you.
like you are already putting on click on the button.
Yeah.
Then why do you need to change the state? Like we can just call the function increment. I think
Yes.
that's what you mean.
Yeah, but-
Ah.
What's the difference?
I'm not sure if I get you, but I will try to explain that. So we pass a function here, okay? And whenever we click the button, this function will be called.
Yes.
And whenever this function will be called, it will update the state.
Do you mean
Yeah.
you want to put the function directly inside of the on-click?
No.
She means like
If we write a counter plus plus inside the function is without set state,
You
it
can
works.
no.
Then he
No.
talked about it.
I've just talked about it. Like if I said if we do this dot state dot counter equal 4, this doesn't work.
No,
Bec-
plus plus.
No,
Same thing.
it doesn't
same
work
thing.
because plus plus.
it
Yeah,
doesn't
Just a
redefine
second.
it.
Just a second. If you say x equal 4, and you say x plus plus, this means x equal x plus 1. This was the x plus plus means. It's not something special. It just translates to this. So if we will do this, or we do plus equal, or we say plus plus, we will update the value. But React will never know that the value changed.
It doesn't update on your page.
You know what I mean?
Render.
It doesn't render.
Exactly. So React will not know that our state changed. So we need to change the state and call, hey React, I changed the state. You know what I mean? So I need to call React. This is why I call set state, because React can be notified that something changed.
Set state is a keyword.
No, it's a function.
Function.
It's a function inherited from React component. So if you go to React component, there is a set state function.
I know this is a predefined.
It's a predefined function, but not related to
But
JavaScript.
the state is not predefined. It's a variable. Maybe.
State is also predefined, but counter is not predefined. So set state and state are reserved for React. It's like a convention. I don't know, it's like we will meet around Neurport. Neurport is not really a special place, but because two people agreed to call it special, it will be special. So you and React, you agree that React will tell you if you want to put something, put it inside this dot state. So you put stuff inside your state. So technically, if you go outside of React, it doesn't have any meaning. But because you and React agreed to put it in set state, it becomes special. Same thing for set state. Same thing for render. Make sense?
And increment is not a keyword. It's just
No, that's a function that we've created.
I'll say increase.
Okay.
Okay, now you know it's not.
yeah.
Okay.
Because the same color that the render.
But
yeah.
don't no. Don't never trust these colors are like
Yeah.
the color doesn't mean anything. Literally.
It looks good twice.
Exactly.
That's it.
It's like someone wearing good clothes with colors. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that he's good, doesn't mean that he's smart, it doesn't mean anything. It's just the way you wear stuff. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, it means at least like you can see they are either functions or methods, right?
Yeah, but that's just a side effect of who did the color. But the color doesn't mean anything. If you are a hardcore programmer, you will develop in terminal where there is no colors. Which is wrong. Yeah, so we have this. Okay, so now every time we say on click, we change the counter to be +1. Make sense? So let's go and do this. It doesn't work. Why? Because I have a hard-coded for here. So now I want to use the state. I need to use the state. So the way I do it is like const counter equal this dot props. Sorry. This dot state dot counter. Or I can use destructoring.
Yes. Yeah.
And I say counter. And I put it instead of the for. Understood?
So easy.
Yeah, because as we this is a good error. So now counter will appear as counter, literally. Super dumb. So the way you do it is you wrap it in increment basis. And now every time we click, it will increment 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Make sense?
Yeah. Can you show me with the
Just a second. Just save your question for 2 minutes. I will say this is my counter app.
How is that important?
You will see why it's important.
Okay.
Let's put this inside a div. This is really important. No, just kidding. You see in a bit.
Can you write before discussion? We made. I asked the question. Without state, it works. Can you show me that it doesn't work without state?
Yeah.
You mean like doing this?
Yes. No, not for plus. Okay.
But so if you change this, how React gonna know that you changed something? React doesn't have anything special over this variable. You defined counter. React doesn't know about counter. So how React gonna know that counter changed?
Actually, value changes, but it doesn't re-render until you use the state.
Do you understand? So if I will say counter, 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 this will increment it 4 times. When I will call set state, it will just override the old value. Because we are taking stuff from state, we're taking the old value from state, add 1 to it, and replace it inside the state. And just thing. And the way you should understand is like this dot state dot counter is just equal.
This dot state.
Can you console log this state counter?
Yeah.
After
Just a second.
incrementing? Yes.
This and this are the same.
Yes.
So don't just fool yourself because of plus plus. Plus plus will not do anything to state or anything. It will just say this, literally.
Yes.
Can you console this dot counter? No. Leave it this state counter plus plus, and just console log
The
this
mobile
state.
set state? Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
It will change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because the variable is
just
changing, but doesn't
Yeah.
re-render.
this state.
Yeah, so it's incrementing, but
It's-
not showing.
but
the
if-
button.
But if you call a set state, it will take the lead.
Yes.
But the idea that you need to understand is like why we call set state. It's like React, as we discussed before, React doesn't enforce anything in terms of JavaScript. We have been using map, filter, render, all the methods. But React needs a way to actually communicate with you. And you will say to React, I updated this value. Can you please show it to the screen?
Yeah.
So this is why we call set state. Set state, inside it, it will do this. So inside set state, there is like this. You will see this line inside set state. But we wrap it inside the set state just to notify React. So React will not change it in a mad way. React will do this like you. But we call the function just to notify React.
Yes, yes.
This increases
So
the method of
set
the
state.
counter class. This increases the method of the counter class.
Yes.
So that two methods cannot see their own.
No, they cannot.
Yeah.
Every method has its own
Yes,
scope. It's like a
yeah.
function.
As we learned before in the objects.
It's a function.
Yes, the two methods cannot see their own
No.
values. That's why the values is inside of the increase methods.
Yeah. So we need to go
We
global.
need to take
Go-
the from there
And yeah, call React globally so React can
go
actually.
back somewhere else.
Yeah, true. Is this clear?
Thank you.
Welcome.
This is
But
very-
yeah, if you have these type of questions, just ask it. Don't say, "Oh, I'm bothering him because like." No. Just say because this is how you understand. It's by challenging your mind.
Yeah.
You are trying to prove to your mind that, but
Yes.
like how, yeah, this is really good. This is how I learn. It's by challenging my mind and saying, but this should work. Why it doesn't work? It's like, and we go into a debate, and eventually it will work.
It needs a mediator set state.
Yeah,
To transfer
exactly.
it
To React.
UI.
Yeah, precisely.
Increase is a function.
It's a function or method.
The syntax of the counter. Counter is the
This one?
counter is
Which counter? There is a lot of counters. It's all over the place.
the last one.
Which line? Which line?
In the return.
Number
What
16,
is-
17.
17.
Yeah. It's counter. It is key. What is this?
This one?
Yeah.
So
Because
this,
in increase you use a function.
yeah. So increase is a function
Yeah.
that changes. This means this function. Counter means this variable, which is coming from state, which is this one, and we update it here. So counter means state.counter.
You use this counter on inside of this increase.
Yeah.
It's the same variable updating it, and because
This is what we're saying. This dot set state. The new counter is this dot. So I can say this. New counter. New counter. So we take the current counter, we increment it by 1, we call set state with our new counter.
In the if you change it to new counter, in the return also you must change it.
Here?
No.
No, he means return line. Yeah, this here.
No, but the way we are doing it here, this is a value. I can put 5 here. So new counter doesn't mean anything. I can name this x and put x here. What really matters is the key here.
Counter is a key.
Yeah, it's a key here, it's a key here, it's a key here. So my state has a counter property. When I want to update it, I will update the counter property.
In here, it's more like a variable. Remember, we just talked about destructuring. So you're assigning the value inside of this dot state to this variable and mapping it. So this means counter is exactly this value. And you are using this function to change this value. And here, so first of all, this is the syntax to show this is a variable to React. So you're not like directly rendering counter. You put it in this curly braces. And then since this is a variable, it's going to read the variable's value all the time. That's why we put it here.
And we can go even further with what she said, and we say this dot count dot state.
this is a state dot counter.
Counter.
Sorry. We can do this.
It's working now.
Yeah, of course.
And show him.
Oh, you don't trust me? Okay, guys. Okay.
See, it's working.
You get the idea?
The syntax is complex.
I think
Which
we need the
syntax?
curly brackets
Yeah.
are,
You mean this one?
no, curly brackets are confusing it. Like you remember whenever you embed like JavaScript, you put curly brackets. Whenever you put HTML, you put
Switches, yeah.
triangle braces.
It's so I can put this dot state dot counter.
For this
Without it
purpose,
will be a
JavaScript
context.
is
Yes.
easy
It will be-
to run, but for this very simple example, JavaScript is very easy.
Yeah.
We use a lot of complicated text for little JavaScript. You can run it very easily. Why you use this?
Yeah.
Yes,
The idea. The
What is
idea.
the benefit of React? Because everything is possible by JavaScript. You use
Yeah, but the idea. I will explain a bit how this works. For example, in JavaScript, as we discussed last time, when you have a page, like I don't know if I still have it. Yeah. For example, when we discussed this, we discuss. So we are saying we can build it this way. Just go write JavaScript and write HTML. After that, write JavaScript, add event listeners, and do whatever you like. You know what I mean? This is what you mean. I can just say get element by ID or get query selector. But with a huge project, this will be a crazy mess. You will not be able to touch your JavaScript because your JavaScript is touching everywhere. You get the idea? But with React, instead, we will build small components. You will tell me, but what's the benefit? Well, if you want to do this inside inside, just a second, just let me return to the old. Yeah, if you want to do the same, which is a counter that updates, you will have an add event listener and an HTML page, and you say get element by ID. But if I will tell you, if you have two buttons, you will copy the code and paste it again. If I will tell you, but I want to update every 4 times, but not the 5th times, you will pass an if else. It's like your code will grow and grow in a really weird way. But the idea behind React is like React is really restricting you from doing a lot of stuff. And this restriction will pay off when you have like really large projects. Because in big projects, when you have like 70 add event listeners and 60 on key up and 40 on key down, you will lose yourself. You will say get element by ID, change this changes, but this is changing. Why this is? It's so difficult to track. But with React, everything is clear. I can even not do this. I can even remove this, and say on key down. I can increment when you say up with the keyword, and I don't need to change anything from here. So this is sort of separation. So we separate our UI from actually how the UI is working itself. You know what I mean? For web pages, it doesn't matter. But for applications like Facebook and stuff where there's like crazy updates, it will pay off. But of course, I understand the frustration. Like, why we are doing this? We can just do it with the thing. But just like you like as we are progressing with the course, you will see exactly how React is doing and stuff like that. And also even the updates, we will discuss that.
Also,
But it's a valid question.
here I'll add one point. So here, like we can, of course, we can use JavaScript to do it. For example, you can just say, go to that HTML node and then say inner HTML equals to something like that, right? When you did your JavaScript class. But the thing is, like, this is a very small component, and you're changing the DOM directly. And then imagine the page. There's so many things going on, and you change the DOM like all the time. It's going to be a huge burden for the browser to calculate like how it's going to render. And React is solving the problem because it's not changing the DOM directly. It's changing the virtual DOM first, and then compare if these two things are matching or not. And this way, it reduces a lot of calculation for the browser. So
I will actually explain that in a bit, because this is the purpose of a counter component, is to explain the updates. And this is really important. So you will see exactly now what React. So React is not just updating, as she said. I just need the way to write it.
Markman?
I have a question. Why in HTML5 we don't have script stream.
Script stream.
Yes, when we use React,
Mm-hmm.
and if you open HTML file,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have this link to JavaScript file.
There is.
Yes.
No.
There is.
Can you show HTML?
Yeah.
We just
Where is
took-
a link to JS file?
we
So this is a whole science itself on putting links, but I will explain a bit. So the way it works, this is not your real index.html.
Mm-hmm.
So when you build your project, so there is a command to build your project. That build will give you an index.html generated by React or generated by Create React App with some JavaScript files. And why we don't have the links? Because honestly, like the link, so it's really good to use the link for external script. But for your, if you have an application, let's say Facebook, they have facebook.com, which is like loading status, or let's say Instagram. Like Instagram, they have like the feed, news feed, the web Instagram, they have the news feed, and they also have the profile, and they have the stories. So these are 3 different pages.
Yes.
So you can go really smart, and instead of loading all the JavaScript, you can split the JavaScript between pages. So this has, so instead of having 600 kilobytes of JavaScript, you can have the profile have 200, these stories have another 200, and profile and the status has 200. And so you dynamically load JavaScript based on the page. You don't have one big JavaScript file. Why? Because for huge websites like Netflix and stuff, there is millions of people watching movies. So even 200 kilobytes, when you times 2 million, it would be like a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like the internet bill because they pay for internet, Netflix, because they transport. So not just that, but also the performance. If you are like on 3G or 2G, 300 or 600, it's a lot. If you are from a development country like me, where internet is a bit expensive, 600, you don't want to load 600. You want to make it like 150 as much as possible. So, and the way we do that, if you go to the profile, you don't need the stories. Maybe you want to just check a friend picture. You don't want to go to, so why loading that JavaScript? And how that is related to this one? Because based on the application logic, I will split my JavaScript and dynamically put it here. So in the build time, I will take this JavaScript, this HTML file, and append the script to it.
Okay.
Dynamically, based on how many pages I have. If
So
we
you have another file.
no, I will take this file, take my JavaScript, add something, and generate a new file. So I don't have another file, but this is a file for development. So if we go this, I can show you in practice. Yeah, so you can see here, there is a script, but no. But yeah, so for example, there is a script here.
Yeah.
And so the way it happens, so we don't have script here.
Yeah.
But when you are ready to push your project to production, when you are ready to release your project, you will build and you will generate a new index.html that is not the same as this one. So you don't have it now because you are just developing. But for production, you build the one. And that one will include some scripts here based on your code. Because you can do so many advanced things with your scripts. You can split them. You can, for example, if 2 pages have some code that is shared between these 2 pages, you don't want to include it in both of them. You create another code, so you will have 3 codes. And each one of them is script. So why we don't have it here? Because React will, behind the scene, add it to you in runtime. Is this clear?
Not yet.
Well, Create React App, or the tool itself.
Okay.
The tool will, because depends if what they are using. There's
Okay,
like
now
so
it's
many.
working. So now it's taken from somewhere this link, yes?
What
To the JavaScript file.
Yeah, so if you go locally,
Where did it take from?
you mean this tool here?
Yes.
Because Code Sandbox has your JavaScript here. And Code Sandbox will add a link here to your script. So Code Sandbox has your code.
Let's say like when you have your React project what you see is what was not the final thing.
Yes, I understood that.
Mm-hmm.
But we should have another file that takes from somewhere. Yes, this link. You said that it could be multiple.
Yeah, but
JS
React,
files.
so React, or depends. There is tools behind the scene, like Babel we discussed last time, like Babel.
Yes.
There is some tools that specialize in taking your JavaScript code, splitting it, and putting it here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Do automatic.
It does it automatically for you. Because now it's a whole science about how you put scripts. There's a whole science about that.
Later
You know-
on you will touch it. And it's
Okay,
going to be
but
painful.
if you use vanilla JavaScript,
Mhm.
you need to put the script line
Yeah.
by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But that has a lot of problems. Like for example, like splitting code, like loading modules, there's a lot of problems around that.
Mhm.
Like if you have small project, it's fine to do that. But if you will have a project with like a huge like lines of code, like thousands, you don't want to include them all in one script and put it there.
Yeah.
That would be like 1 megabyte of JavaScript, and you are barely using it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like you don't want to load the video component in Facebook if people are looking at the status.
Yeah.
So there is a whole science about doing that. But the thing that you need to retain is the tool that we installed, Create React App.
Yes.
That tool, it will give you this boilerplate, but once you want to push to production, Create React App and some tools behind it, as she said, Webpack, or there's like a lot of tools, they will analyze your JavaScript code, convert it, run Babel to all the browsers and stuff, and generate scripts and put them inside your index.html. Make sense?
Yes.
You will not see the purpose of that now, but you will see it soon. As you are like developing huge applications
Mm-hmm.
and going into optimization stuff. And yeah, so I want to say something. No. So we have the structure of our app here. You can see when I'm updating, what's refreshing in the browser?
But
Only the button. Not the div, not this is my, even though this is all React, this is all React. But React is only updating this one. Why?
Because the state is set
So
to
this
that.
state.
Yeah, but why set state is not updating everything? Why it's only updating this
Because
one?
it's a counter.
It's a
Set state
component.
counter.
Making the
Because
component
it's changed.
only-
Yeah, because it's changed and React is, well, we will say that React is done, but also smart at the same time, because React will see that, oh, only counter changed. So there is no need to actually replace this and replace this and replace this. Only this is changed. So this is also something important, because if you are mutating the DOM directly, you will hit really problems with updating stuff. But now React is smart. React will say, oh, just the button changed. Is this clear? Did you all see this? I will explain just a bit about the process of doing that. So you can see that only the button updates. I'll just say, we have a div with text. I will wrap this, well. So in my so as we said before, React. So when yeah, it's so we write our own components like app and counter and the stuff that we did before, and also we have the render from React DOM. So when we say React DOM.render app is my first component. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
An app will generate, or app will return what? It will return a div. Will return a div, and the div with a class name app, and the div will return two things. It will return text,
Yeah.
and it will return another div, and the div will be only one child, has one child, which is counter. Okay, sorry for my French way of writing. And counter will return a button. The counter only returns one button.
Yes.
Wait here. So this is my structure. So React will go with here. React will construct a DOM basically. But what React will construct here is not a real DOM because this is not a DOM element. This is not a DOM element. So this is our own custom component. We call this a virtual DOM. It's a virtual DOM. It's not the real DOM. You know all what the DOM is. It's like the browser HTML, the document object model. But this is not the real. This is React constructing it.
Yes.
And these stuff are not real components. This is not a real div. This is not a real text. It's just the way. It's just create element that we discussed last time. React has a description of that I want to render the div, and the way you should see it is sorry. And the way you see it is, if I would say x equal, let x equal a div with 5, okay, and I say console.log x. You can see it's an object. It's not even a real div. It's just an object that's created by React. So we call this an element. And what this acts as, it's a description. So this is a description of what we want. So this is an element, a React element, type of, doesn't have key. The props are children, which is 5. So it has only one, it has children, which is 5, only one. And it doesn't have any props, because we're not passing any props. If we pass x here, x or let's say id equal 4. So now I have an id equal 4, props, ref, the type is a div, okay, and yeah, so many other things. But the way you should understand, it doesn't matter about these details, but the way I understand it is like, this div, it's not a real div. It's a description of a div. So you are saying to React, I want to render a div. React will understand it as a div, and after that React will transpile this to a real browser div. But there is something in between. We will explain that. So when React will construct this, it will not construct the real browser stuff. It will only have, oh, this is an object with type app, this is an object with type div, this is an object with type div, this is an object with type text, this is an object with type counter. After that, React will convert these objects into a real DOM. I would say it a real DOM. Which is up. Up doesn't exist. We cannot convert up. The up is not a real DOM thing. So we have the div. We have the div. Okay? After that, we have the text. After that, we have the div. And the div, inside it, there is a button. Make sense?
Yes.
And you can see here, there is div with div and div inside it a button. So all the counter and up and stuff, it doesn't exist anymore. Because these are sort of like blue code for React to understand and to program. But when we ship it to the browser, this stuff doesn't exist. This stuff only helps us because React cannot put an app inside the browser. It doesn't exist. But these JavaScript, so this div has a special meaning, and there is some JavaScript behind it that is attached to it because it was an app before. And that code will see if it's update and stuff like that. So just remember that all your code here will be shipped to HTML. Because here now we are writing HTML with JavaScript, but after that it will be HTML itself, and there is some JavaScript attached to it that will handle it. Let's walk the process of updating the counter. So when we click the button here, so the button has a text. 5. When we click the button, we click the button here. Okay?
Yes.
Not here, because you cannot click this.
Yeah.
As we said, this is just a description. This is like a schema. It's like I want a house with 4 rooms and here and there. But when you build the house, if you want to edit something, you don't go and create a room here. You create a room here. So this is what you should get. This is a description of what you want to render. But this is what the browser will run. Okay, so let's say you create a button. You update the button. Okay, you click. The mouse will click on the not the counter, but on the button. Okay, you click this one. So, and the way it's real, it's like you are clicking this one, because you are not clicking this. This is just the script. This is inside the browser. So you click this button, but remember that this button has an event listener on click. Remember? And this event listener will be here too. So when you click this one, you will call a function, and you will call a set state, and the set state will update the DOM. So here we had one before. Okay. Now when you click this, we will have two here. But how we will have two? Well, React is kind of stupid, so React needs to build this all again. So we will build again up and div, yeah, the same. Okay, but while React is building it, React will say, does the up change? No. Did the div change? No. Did the text of the div change? The text that we see here, like my counter up? No. Did div change?
No.
No. This counter changed? Well, kind of changed, because there's a set state that changed the state of the counter. Okay, so this is something we need to look into. And after that, we go inside the counter. Did the button change?
No.
Yes, changed, because the text of the button is attached to the button itself. So yes, the button has changed. So React will figure out that there is something here. And how did the button change? Oh, the text of the button changed from 1 to 2. So we put a 2 here. React will compare these two, as I did now. What changed, what changed? Oh, only this changed. And it will go to this one and only change the text. Only change this button. And make it, instead of 1 to 2. I don't know if this is clear.
Yes. So that means every single time it's create another virtual DOM.
Yes, every time React will create another, every time you do an update, this update could be, mostly it's set state.
Yeah.
But whenever a component re-render, because set state causes the component to re-render, React will create a virtual DOM. Compare it to the old virtual DOM. Figure out the difference. We can see here that there is only diff between this one and this one.
Yes.
And React will not update the browser, all the browser. React will only update what changed. Because it knows the old state and it knows the new state. So we can compute what changed and smartly only update. Because like creating this is not a huge problem. These are just JavaScript objects. But actually updating the DOM and changing the DOM, that's really slow.
Yeah.
So React will smartly compare these and only update the specific element. This is why when we click, we only see the button updating. You can see here, just a second. You can see here. You can see here, every time I click, only the button is changing. No other thing is changing, because React figured out that nothing else changed, only the counter changed. How? Because it's comparing the new constructed virtual DOM to the previous constructed virtual DOM and figure out that this changed, and React will compute an optimized way to change the button.
Yeah, and if comparing with vanilla JavaScript, it will load every.
No, it will compare the virtual DOMs, not the real DOMs. Because this div is just an object with type that it's a div. Sorry, this one. It's just an object with type, which is a div. But this will be translated to a real div. Changing object is not slow, but changing divs is slow.
Yeah, and vanilla JavaScript, is it changes a real div? Or
No.
not?
So here we can say that React will walk through this and only figure out that this changed.
Yes.
So it will only update this one. So the browser itself will not see that this changed. Only the browser will only refresh the button.
Yeah.
So you can think of this as sort of an optimization thing that React will do it for you. And this is what we call the virtual DOM, which is essentially just a replica of the DOM in memory. So it's like JavaScript is keeping it. React is keeping it. Sorry, it's not something related to JavaScript. It's React. So React is keeping it. So as long as you are interacting with the app, there's a virtual DOM. It's kept, and every time you update, a new one will be constructed, compared. So this one will be thrown, and this will be the new one. And whenever we click the button again, we do the same process. We create another virtual DOM here. We compare it to this one, and we figure out that only the button changed. We update only the button. So this is the cycle of React, what it's doing. It's sort of stupid because it's rendering everything, but it's also smart because it's only updating the browser. So it's like an optimization thing that, is this clear? Or I'm
Yeah.
just like
But
a
what-
mad scientist?
What if we don't have a set state and I just hit the like refresh button? So does it still creates a visual DOM every time?
What do you mean by so if you don't change, if you don't, the way she said it before, it's like can we just change state? Yeah, you will change state. When you click this, you change state, but you didn't tell React.
Yeah.
So React will not do anything. So we call set state. So React will say, oh, let's start the work.
So creating a visual DOM is related to set state.
It's related to set state.
So
Yes.
yeah.
Most of the time, there is some edge cases, but most of the time that's the way. But every time React needs to update, it needs to pass by a virtual DOM, so it doesn't change everything.
That means like doing the homework in mind and in computer.
Yeah.
Doing the homework in your mind
Yeah.
and then in computer.
Yeah.
A virtual DOM in the real world.
Yeah. Any questions?
No.
Is it clear or?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. So this is virtual DOM. There's so many. But most of the frameworks, like Vue and like most of the frameworks, they follow the same convention. Well, some frameworks, they don't do this. They have virtual DOM, but they don't do this. What they do instead is, whenever you reference set state here, so the framework will know that there is a counter here. There is a value that can change. So counter can change. So they will observe this. And whenever they change the state, let's say you reference counter here and you reference counter here. So they will keep up that there is two places where the counter was used. And whenever you update the counter, they go straight away and they update it here. This is smarter.
Yeah.
But also comes with a lot of overhead because you need to follow a lot of places. It was used, so it's drawbacks. It's like every company or every framework developer use the way that the React team likes the old fashion of comparing, and they have arguments why, and the other team like you, they have it's. But this is just how virtual DOM works. So if someone will ask you what's virtual DOM, it's just a way to actually.
It's a schema.
It's sort of a schema.
Yeah.
What do you want to render? And why we use a virtual DOM? Because updating the DOM is difficult. And it's slow. But having and also like to extend the DOM, it's almost difficult to extend. But having objects and stuff, it's super easy that the React team can change everything here. They can add their own nodes, they can delete stuff, they can have children, they can do whatever they like.
Could you press the React and when you click the button?
Yeah.
What's happening in the React?
So this, I don't know if you know about this, but this is the dev tool. This is an extension for React.
When you click that, then
Just-
React also generating another app.
What do you mean?
I mean, when you click the button, you said that.
Yeah.
Creating another virtual DOM.
Okay, and it is not creating over there.
What do you mean?
This is the browser.
You have
It's a browser.
drawn
It's a DOM.
exact- when-
Extension.
It's changing this.
Okay,
It's the actual DOM, right? That you're seeing over there.
this is not virtual, right?
No.
You can say that this is virtual.
Okay.
But the way you should look at this, it's not that it's so virtual DOM. It's not something you should be concerned about, and you should never discuss it. You know why? Because it hurts your mind. What? No, seriously. Because virtual DOM was an optimization layer. Okay, So it's not something that when you code you think about. Because if you code and think about, you are wrong. Because every time the React team changes the virtual DOM. Because it's their own implementation of the browser. So for example, like before, they had a version and now they had another version. So if you develop and think about it, no, the React team doesn't want you to know about it. The React team wants you to use React, and behind the scene they do optimization. They can, for example, jump from the old way, which is building everything, to the observable, and observing only what changed, the second one that we discussed. But you should not be concerned about that. That's a framework details. It's like in the browser when you say create element or add event listener, you don't care what's happening. And you should not care. Because if you depend on how the browser does stuff, with every browser update, you need to update your application, which is wrong. You get the idea?
Yeah.
So never think about like, is this a virtual? No. This is description of what React wants to render.
Just wants to see, I mean, when you click them, the virtual is appearing on a.
Oh,
just
you,
wants to see.
it's updating the button here, but
Just update
it will not walk you.
If you click,
You can say the state here, but it will not walk you through what React is doing. There is some tools I think online that shows, I think React Visualizer. I don't know. There is some tools that walk you through how React construct the virtual DOM and have updates, but that's optional. You don't need to use virtual DOM. Is just like nice to have for interviews and stuff. But you are, I know about this.
yeah.
But you never use it and you should not. If someone is using code that is dependent on virtual DOM work, he's wrong.
Sounds very hacky also.
It's super hacky because it's changing. It's not your job. It's the React team job.
Just knowing that is already enough, because you probably will be asked in the interviews. But other than that,
It's never if someone will tell you that, oh, but the virtual don't work like this, so we need to use something like this. Uh-oh.
he works in Facebook.
Yeah, maybe like the React team literally changed the virtual DOM implementation. Because just to give you a hint, before the virtual DOM, so when the virtual DOM starts doing this stuff, it needs to finish. We cannot interrupt it in the middle. Like, oh, stopping here and not rendering this, doing something else, after that coming back and doing this. So before this wasn't impossible, but now it's possible. Now React can actually stop this, go update something else, come back here and continue. So, and in the future they will add more stuff. In the future maybe they will remove the whole virtual DOM. It's not your job to know that. It's a good knowledge to have. Like, I'm just trying to explain to you how React works and the benefit of it. But that's not a required knowledge in any sense. I learned a lot about virtual DOM just by teaching here. So usually, yeah, because it's not useful, honestly. Is this clear?
Yes.
Any question? Yes, we can take a break. But if you have just any question now, no?
No.
You have questions? Okay. So let's take a break.